Chapter 24. As they approached the city, it became harder for Thomas to actually see it. The dust in the air had thickened into a brown fog, and he felt it in every breath. It was crusting in his eyes, making them water and turning to goop that he had to keep wiping away. The large building they were shooting for had become a looming shadow behind the cloud of dust, towering taller and taller, like a growing giant. The wind had gained a rough edge, pelting him with the sand and grit until it hurt. Every once in a while, a larger object would fly through, scaring him half out of his wits. A branch, something that looked like a small mouse, a piece of roofing tile, and countless scraps of paper, all swirling through the air like snowflakes. Then came the lightning. They'd have the distance to the building, maybe more than that, when the bolts came from nowhere, and the world around him erupted in light and thunder. They fell from the sky in jagged streaks, like bars of white light, slamming into the ground and throwing up massive amounts of scorched earth. The crushing sound was too much to bear, and Thomas's ears began to go numb, the horrific noise fading to a distant hum as he went deaf. He kept running, almost blind now, unable to hear, barely able to see the building. People fell and got back up. Thomas stumbled but caught his balance. He helped Newt regain his feet, then a fry pan. Pushed them forward as he kept on. It was only a matter of time before one of the thick daggers of lightning struck someone and fried them to a blackened char. His hair stood on end despite the ripping wind, the static in the air raging and prickly as flying needles. Thomas wanted to scream, wanted to hear his own voice, even if it was the only dull vibrations inside his skull. But he knew the dust-riddled air would choke him. It was hard enough to take short, quick breaths through his nose, especially with the storm of lightning crashing to the ground all around them, singeing the air, making everything smell like copper and ash. The sky darkened further. The dust cloud thickened. Thomas realized he couldn't see anyone anymore. Just those few directly in front of him. Light from the strikes flashed against them, a short of burst of brilliant white illuminating them from the briefest instant. It all added together to blind Thomas even more. They had to reach that building. They had to get there or they wouldn't last much longer. And where was the rain? He wondered. Where was the rain? What kind of storm was this? A bolt of pure white zigzagged from the sky and exploded on the ground right in front of him. He screamed but couldn't hear himself, squeezing his eyes shut as some burst of energy or wave of air threw him to the side. He landed flat on his back. The breath knocked from his chest as a spray of dirt and rocks rained down on him. Spitting, wiping at his face, he gulped for air as he scrambled onto his hands and knees, then his feet. The air finally flowed and he pulled it deep into his lungs. He heard a ringing now. A steady, high-pitched buzz that felt like nails in his eardrum. The wind tried to eat his clothes. Dirt stung his skin. Darkness swirled around him like a living night, broken only by the flashes of lightning. Then he saw it. A horrific image made even spookier by the on-again, off-again source of light. It was Jack. He lay on the ground inside a small crater, writhing as he clutched his knee. There was nothing below that. Shin, ankle, foot, obliterated by the burst of pure electricity from the sky. Blood that looked black tar gushed from the hideous wound, making a paste of horror with the dirt. His clothes had been burned off, leaving him naked, injuries spreading across his whole body. He had no hair, and it looked like his eyeballs had... Thomas spun around and collapsed to the ground, coughing as he spit up everything in his stomach. There was nothing they could do for Jack. No way, nothing. But he was still alive. Though the thought shamed him, Thomas was glad he couldn't hear the screams. He didn't know if he could bear to even look at him again. Then someone was grabbing him, pulling him to his feet. Minho. He said something, and Thomas focused enough to read his lips. We have to go. Nothing we can do. Jack, he thought. Oh man, Jack. Stumbling, his stomach muscles sore from throwing up, his ears ringing painfully, in shock from the terrible sight of Jack ripped to shreds by lightning, he ran after Minho. He saw lumps of shadow to the left and right. Other gliders, but only a few. It was too dark to see very far, and the lightning came and went too fast to reveal too much. Only dust and debris in that looming shape of the building, almost on top of them now. They'd lost any hope of organization or staying together. It was each glider for himself now. They just had to hope everyone could make it. Wind. Explosions of light. Wind choking dust. Wind ringing in his ears. Pain. Wind. He kept going, his eyes glued to Minho just a few steps ahead of him, He didn't feel anything for Jack. He didn't care if he was permanently deaf. He didn't care about the others anymore. The chaos around him seemed to siphon away his humanity, turn him into an animal. All he wanted was to survive. Make it to that building, get inside, live another day. Searing white light detonated in front of him, throwing him through the air again. Even as he flew backward, he screamed, tried to regain his footing. The explosion had happened right where Minho was running. Minho! Thomas landed with a jarring thump that felt like every joint in his body came loose, then popped back into place. He ignored the pain, got up, ran forward, his vision full of darkness mixed with blurry after-images. Amoebas of purplish light. Then he saw flames. It took a second for his brain to compute what he was seeing. Rods of fire dancing about like magic. Hot tendrils whipping to the right from the wind. Then it all collapsed to the ground. A heap of thrashing flame. Thomas reached it and understood. It was Minho. His clothes were on fire. With a shriek that sent sharp pains through his head, he fell to the ground next to his friend. He dug into the earth, thankfully loose from the explosion of electricity that hit it, and shoveled it on top of Minho with both hands, scooping frantically. Aiming for the brightest points of flame, he made progress as Minho helped by rolling around and beating his upper body with both hands. In a matter of seconds, the fire went out, leaving behind charred clothing and countless angry wounds. Thomas was glad to see he couldn't hear wails of agony that appeared to be coming from Minho. He knew they didn't have time to stop, so Thomas grabbed their leader by the shoulders and dragged him to his feet. "Come on!" Thomas shouted, though the words felt like a couple of noiseless throbs in his brain. Minho coughed, winced again, but then nodded and wrapped one of his arms around Thomas's neck. Together they moved as fast as they could toward the building, Thomas doing most of the work. All around them the lightning continued to fall like arrows of white fire. Thomas could feel the silent impact of the explosions, each one rattling his skull, shaking his bones. Flashes of light all around, past the building toward which they stumbled and struggled. Even more fires had sprung up. 2 or 3 times he saw lightning make direct contact with the upper reaches of a structure, setting a rain of bricks and glass falling to the streets below. The darkness began to take on a different tone, more gray than brown, and Thomas realized that the storm clouds must have really thickened and sunk toward the ground, pushing the dust and fog out of their way. The wind had lessened slightly, but the lightning seemed stronger than ever. Gladers were to the left and right, all heading in the same direction. They seemed fewer in number, but Thomas still couldn't see well enough to know for sure. He did spot Newt, then Frypan, and Eris, all of them looking as terrified as he felt. Running. All eyes riveted to their goal, now just a short distance away. Minho lost his footing and fell, slipped from Thomas's grip. Thomas stopped, turned around, pulled the burnt boy back to his feet, reset Minho's arm around his shoulder. Gripping him around the torso with both arms now, he half carried, half pulled him along. A blinding arc of lightning went right over their heads, pummeled the earth behind them. Thomas didn't look, kept moving. A glader fell to his left. He couldn't tell who it was. Didn't hear the scream he knew must have come. Another boy fell to his right, got back up. A blast of lightning just ahead and to the right, another to the left, one straight ahead. Thomas had to pause, blinking viciously until his sight came back. He stared up again, yanking Minho along with him. And then there they were, the first building of the city. In the gripping darkness of the storm, the structure was all gray. Massive blocks of stone, an arch of smaller bricks, half-broken windows. Eris reached the door first. Didn't bother to open it. It had been made of glass that was mostly gone, so he carefully smashed out the remaining shards with his elbow. He waved a couple of gladers past, then went in himself, swallowed by the interior. Thomas made it just as Newt did, and gestured for help. Newt and another boy took Minho from him, carefully dragged him backward over the threshold of the open entrance, his feet hitting the sill as they pulled him through. And then Thomas, still in shock over the sheer power of the lightning bursts, followed his friends, stepping into the gloom. He turned to look just in time to see the rain start falling outside, as if the storm had finally decided to weep with shame for what it had done to them.